Understanding Second Language Proficiency. This video is part of the professional learning series entitled Intentional Second Language Teaching. Do you speak more than one language? Do you consider yourself proficient in more than one language? How do you measure proficiency in each of the languages you know? Let us consider language proficiency as a fluid concept, concerned with the receptive skills, listening and reading, and the productive skills, speaking and writing. Consider a language in which you may only have some knowledge or ability. People may be inclined to think about what they cannot do in that language. They may not believe that what they can do has value. Bilingual and multilingual people typically do not have the same degree of proficiency in every language. They may, for example, be stronger in receptive skills, listening or reading in one language, and productive skills, speaking or writing in another. What is important, though, is that people recognize that what they can do in each language has value. Language proficiency represents your current abilities and can allow you to set goals for your unique language proficiency journey. As language learners travel forward on a personal journey, they set goals and complete tasks, self-assess, and set goals again. The journey has no end point, as language learners can set new goals for different communicative purposes as new situations or needs arise. Simply put, language proficiency can be defined not as what one knows, but what one can do with what one knows at a given point in time. Elizabeth Coelho, whose research focuses on teaching and learning in multilingual contexts, explains it this way. Teachers need to find out not what this second language learner can't do that native peers can, but what the second language learner can do and what this reveals about how the student is progressing. Several major assessment frameworks have been developed with the goal of measuring and assessing what learners can do. A validated and objective framework provides clearly defined criteria against which an individual's performance can be compared. Each of these frameworks has stages or levels that situate learners along a continuum. While progress can happen fairly quickly at lower levels, the distance between stages increases as learners move on to more advanced levels of proficiency. Consequently, more advanced language learners need to be patient and recognize that progress will happen, but more slowly than at the beginning stages. Another important point related to language proficiency concerns the difference between academic and social or interpersonal language. Some learners may be able to converse quite well in social contexts, but this does not mean that they possess a similarly strong level of academic language proficiency. When considering language proficiency, teachers need to provide opportunities for learners to use and be assessed on both social and academic language. Proficiency frameworks, like the Common European Framework of Reference, commonly called the CEFR, and the accompanying language portfolio can help teachers and students build and track proficiency through self-assessment, goal setting, and reflection. The CEFR includes both a global scale and can-do descriptors. The global scale describes observable language behaviors in real-world contexts. The can-do descriptors allow learners to self-reflect and self-assess, collecting evidence in their portfolios over time.
I use the Common European Framework to basically serve as a frame for each lesson and the unit as a whole, because I felt that the students needed to be able to articulate in a simple way what it is they could do or what it is they were going to do in the unit.
Just as we know that language proficiency is not a perfectly linear process, we also recognize that the CEFR is not a flowchart of proposed achievement, but a framework of reference for proficiency at a given point in time. The degree of proficiency required varies according to the context and the individual's personal and professional desires or needs. Each individual can set targets according to their personal situation and aspirations. Proficiency goals are defined differently by different learners, depending on their current situation and what they want to do with the language. A final thought to consider is that a bilingual or plurilingual person is not two or more monolinguals in one. It is valuable to consider plurilingual competence from a strengths-based perspective, rather than comparing it to that of a monolingual or native speaker. This is particularly helpful when setting language proficiency goals that reflect the use of different languages in different contexts. In sum, language proficiency is a personal and fluid demonstration of what one can do in a language at a given point in time. For learners and language teachers, the goal of measuring proficiency should be the same, focusing on what the learner can do in the language and setting clear and attainable goals based on individual needs and desires. The question is not, how long does it take to become proficient, but rather, what does my proficiency profile look like now? What is my goal, and what is my plan for reaching that goal?